Hey everyone, thanks for being a little bit patient. As is with technology, sometimes there are outages. I'm not like doing saying anything earth shattering today. So, anyways, I am Kelli Thompson. I'm a women's leadership coach and speaker, and thank you for joining me again for another Career Clarity and Confidence Live. Today, we're going to talk about changing jobs and how to be successful in your first 100 days. Hi, Amanda. And if you're here, say hello. Thank you so much for waiting for me and being patient. Um, this is a great topic, not only for anyone who is going to be changing roles because they've been promoted, because they're going to a new organization, but I think that this is a really great kind of perspective to have if you're a leader and you're going to be welcoming new people onto your team as well, because this is kind of something that everyone goes through. And I've been through it a lot. Not only have I changed jobs a lot inside my organization, but I've switched organizations. I've even left corporate America and gone out on my own. And I've had to remind myself of these things to make a confident career transition only every single time, because only every single time I forget them and then I get frustrated and then I get pissed off with myself and I'm not getting the results that I want. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was like, I got to remember all the things that I tell all the people. So since we're a little bit late today, I am going to hop right in and I want to share 5 best practices, things that I've not only learned, but things that I've watched my clients do, and maybe even learned, through my own mistakes and my clients' mistakes. And then if you hang on to the end, I'm going to have a little bonus tip by Enneagram type. So let's just dive right in. So the 5 best practices to make the most of your first 100 days. And I'm going to tell you that in none of these best practices is there anything to do with setting a crap ton of goals, because I think that that's what everyone talks to you about. I actually want you, I hope you've done this even before you started your job searches. I want you to define your values. And here's why. Because in only every other career change I've made, in only career change that my clients have made, I'm going to tell you that things don't go as planned. They never go as smoothly as we think. We never accomplish quite the things we think. We encounter different strategies than we thought, different people than we thought, different situations than they thought. And so lots of times it can bring a little bit more uncertainty than we planned for. And so sometimes just this uncertainty is your certainty. So it's really important to know what your values are. Hopefully you've chosen a company that is in alignment with your values, so you feel good about the way the company makes decisions and the way that they work. But here's some questions you can ask yourself. What are your top 5 values? And here's some questions to help you narrow it down. How do you want to feel in your first 100 days? Write down a few words that describe how you want to feel. How do you want to be perceived? How do you want people to perceive you as a leader? Maybe write down another 5 words. How do you want to make other people feel? Maybe write down another 5 words. And I want you to start to circle some of these words that you have in common. How do you want to feel? How do you want to be perceived? How do you want to make others feel? Because when you can kind of narrow down into, you know what, I want, like the values that are going to guide my career transition might be curious, open-minded, flexible, humorous, inspiring, confident. I mean, right? There's no right amount of words. It could be strategic, visionary, whatever this looks like for you. These are your values. They're all going to be different, because when things don't go as planned, when things surprise you, when things feel uncertain, when goals might have to shift, you can always go back and say, you know what? How can I take my right next step in alignment with my values? How can I have onboarding conversations or courageous conversations with my team in alignment with my values? I had a client who just got an awesome new job, and she had to fly away for a week to go spend a week with the new team. And we did this exercise and we laughed when she got back, because I'm like, so how'd it go? And she's like, totally not like I planned, of course, because she's a planner. But we really fell back on some of these values, because when things don't always like shake out like you think, you can always go back to your values and say, well, how do I want to show up in alignment with my values? How do I want to have conversations? How do I want to spend my time? How do I want to make decisions? And it provides you a lot of clarity in uncertainty. Because I always say, I don't think that we wish for clarity. I think our ego wants certainty, but we can always find clarity by moving in alignment with our values. The next one was one that is really important, and that is accepting the identity shift. So even when we make the decision ourselves to move to a new job, one of the things that tends to happen to people is once kind of like that excitement and the adrenaline and the new job smell wears off, then we're just left with work. And we're sitting in conference rooms sometimes where we have no idea what acronyms they're using. We don't know what conversations they're having. There's dynamics and relationships and politics and all sorts of things that have been in play long before you've gotten there. And the ego hates change. It hates feeling like it doesn't fit in. It's like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden you realize that the discomfort comes from you were an expert at your old job and now you're a beginner again. And sometimes that identity shift can be a huge, just, it can really kind of rock your foundation. So another one of my clients went through this recently. So she switched director. She oversaw basically a program at one organization and moved to another organization where she oversees the staff and all the programming. And about 6 weeks into her new job, when the new job smell kind of to wear off, she was really kind of struggling, just feeling kind of like she wasn't quite sure which way was up. Did I make the right choice? What do I do next? What's my strategy? Do these people like me? How am I making impact? Is this what I really wanted? Like, it's just kind of this emotional roller coaster. And really what we boiled down to was, I just talked to her about how our egos undergo this identity shift and we get really comfortable with being the expert and we're the person everyone goes to and everybody knows us and we know our way around and we know all the politics. And then we get into this new job and we sit in meetings and we're like, oh, I don't know who to go to. I don't know who to ask. I don't know what these words mean. Do I have enough clout yet to ask for what I need? Am I sure that, my programs are going to work? Maybe you've had a couple not missteps, but conversations that didn't go like you'd hoped. And so maybe you're thinking about that and there's some imposter syndrome. So I just want you to know that this identity shift is normal. Like literally your identity, like your old identity as an expert has died. It's dissolved away. And now you're trying to put on this new identity of being a beginner again. And that just doesn't feel good. And so I want you to know that it's okay. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to give you tips by Enneagram type to help with this shift of what is okay to be okay with. So just know that there is an identity shift from expert to beginner, and it doesn't always feel good. And that's okay. And we don't talk about that enough. The third thing is being flexible in your goals. And so if you're listening, you're probably like super highly motivated, super high achiever, right? And when you switch jobs, or maybe you're a leader and you're watching people come into new jobs, you likely have, these are my priorities, these are my goals, this is my 90-day plan, this is my success path, blah, 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 right? But sometimes what happens, and what happened to me and what happens to a lot of my clients, is you get into an organization and you realize that maybe the plan that you put together for success, for like all this success in 90 days doesn't always work out as planned. And that can be really disheartening for people who love to check things off a list, for people who love to feel accomplished, for people who love to feel like a high achiever. And so I want you to actually shift your goal. Instead of making your goal in the first 90 to 100 days success or achievement or accomplishment, what would it look like for you to make your goal connecting, learning, taking in? Like, what would be different for you? How would that feel different for you? Would you feel less pressure? Would you relax into the role a little bit? This is a great time actually to think more about your values instead of your goals. And Amanda says, yes, I'm an achiever first. Yes, this is really hard for people who are achievers, but nothing tends to go as planned. Now, it's great to have goals and priorities. And I think once you get in, those can become very clear. And I work with my clients in their career transitions when they get in. Now that you're in, what appear to be some of the priorities. And I think that's good to have some clarity around that. But it's okay to let go of some of the initial goals that you held. And instead of holding such harsh expectations for yourself for improvement, achievement, what if instead your goal was just learning everything there is to know about the organization and connecting with your colleagues around you? Like, how might that actually also be an excellent path to success. The fourth tip is to own your talents and tame the imposter monster. So many of my clients tell me that when they get into new jobs, all the imposter monster comes in, right? Oh my gosh, they're going to be found out that I'm not as qualified as they thought. And I fooled them through the interview process and they never should have hired me. And I'm one comment away from everybody knowing I'm an idiot. I mean, I felt it. My clients have felt it. This is a great time to go back on your career success journal. And if you have not kept a career journal or a smile file, as I call it sometimes, start keeping one of all the successes you've had in your careers, all the compliments you've received, and go back and reflect on that and own your talents. I often say, and I'm writing it in my new book, is that owning your talents is the antidote to imposter syndrome. Because when we can remember why we were hired, why I'm in that room, I might not be an expert in your jargon, but I know that I am an expert in sales and relationship building and strategy and branding and marketing or whatever that is for you. So it's a great time to own your talents to kind of keep the imposter monster at bay. And the last one for all you high achievers is self-care and boundaries. And I know you don't want to hear that one. You're like, no. But you know what? Like, I'm not all about hustle culture. So I've been there. I had another client who was telling me in one of our coaching sessions, she was about, I'd say 60 days into her new job. And I asked her how she was doing. And she's like, I'm just exhausted, because she's like, I got into this job and I got all excited and my adrenaline hit. And so then I was saying yes to everything. And so then I was working before hours and after hours. And so I let my exercise routines go and my self-care routines go, my journaling go, and I'm working too late into the night. She goes, because I was just so afraid that if I didn't say yes, people would think I wasn't capable or I would be exposed or they'd wonder why they hired me. And so she's now had to backpedal into that self-care and those boundaries just so she can reclaim her energy, right? Because the last thing we want is for you to burn yourself out in the first 90 days. And then you're spending the next 90 days trying to recover while you're also doing the work. So really think about what self-care and what boundaries and what non-negotiables you need to take care of yourself in the first 100 days so that you can last the next 1,000 days. And that could look like keeping your morning exercise routine. You know, what are you eating during the day? Making sure you're taking your lunch breaks, maybe making sure you're logging off at a good time. Now, I know this is hard because you're so excited about your new job. I know that's hard. I know. And it's also just really important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself now, because you're thinking about what your future self is going to need to be successful in this role as well. So just remember, you can be successful in a new job while also feeling uncomfortable. You can achieve a lot of things in a new job, like while also feeling a lot of discomfort. You can be successful and connect with new people and make an impact while also feeling like a beginner again. You can be qualified and a beginner. You can be confident and uncomfortable. And remember, there's just a lot of duality and here that's really important to keep in mind. So I want to just tell you the 5 best practices again, and then I want to talk to you about a tip by Enneagram type. So I believe that for the first 100 days, there are 5 best practices to keep in mind so that you can transition well into your new job. And that is defining your values. How do you want to be seen at work? How do you want to be perceived? How do you want others to feel? This is going to provide you a lot of clarity in uncertainty so you can choose your right next best step. Number 2, accept the identity shift. You will move from expert to beginner, and that comes with a lot of stuff that the ego doesn't like. And so it is okay to feel uncomfortable here. So that leads to my third one, which is to be flexible in your goals. Instead of your goal being achievement, accomplishment, success, and all of these sorts of things, what if instead your goal was connection and learning? That might loosen up a little bit some of the discomfort you're feeling from being in a beginner, and instead helps you focus more on creating connections with your colleagues and learning what you need to know to be successful over the long term. The 4th best practice is to own your talents to tame the imposter monster. Remember why you were hired. Go back to your career success journal and remember all of the unique skills and talents that you can fall back on while you're feeling like a beginner and you don't understand any acronyms. When you're sitting in meetings, these are the skills that you can reflect back on so that you can make a contribution and an impact. And the last one is to remember your self-care and your boundaries. Super easy to get caught up and overwork, but remember what your future self is going to need. We don't want to burn yourself out in the first 100 days so that you pay for it in your next 100 to 1,000 days. So remember your morning practices, feed yourself well, take breaks, and log off at a normal time. So, okay. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Enneagram, it is a personality assessment that I love. I'm certified in lots of them. This is the one that I use because it tells you why you do the things that you do, helps you understand your fears and your motivators. And there are 9 Enneagram types. So if you know your number, great. Listen for yours. And if you don't know your number, these will be 9 great tips that you can use no matter what. Actually, I think these are great tips for all of us. So in the first 100 days of your job, here's what each Enneagram type may need to hear. In the first 100 days of your job, it's okay to, for number ones, not improve everything right away. For number twos, it's okay to not win everyone over. For Enneagram threes, it's okay to not accomplish all of your goals as planned. For number fours, it's okay to feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster. Enneagram 5s, it's okay to not feel like an expert. For Enneagram 6s, it is okay to act on your own authority. For Enneagram 7s, it's okay to hear things that aren't working. For Enneagram 8s, it is okay to set boundaries and not overwork. And for Enneagram 9s, it is okay to ask for what you need to succeed. So if you're about ready to start your job and you've done this a lot, tell me your best tips in the comments. I always love hearing from all of you so that we can crowdsource a bunch of tips for everyone. These are just my 5. And if you have any questions about making a career change and you have more questions for me, just drop it in the comments, or you can always send me a message on LinkedIn messaging as well. So if you are curious about my coaching and speaking programs, you can find more information right here on LinkedIn, or you can access my website at kellyraythompson.com. So hope these were helpful. I hope to hear your tips as well, and good luck in all of your transitions.